my most amazing artists, and welcome to another edition of Art at Home with me, Miss Wegman. This video is going to be part 1 of 2, and we're going to be learning how to draw a desert landscape. In this video, we're going to learn the different parts of a landscape, and I'm going to show you how to draw them step by step to create a drawing that not only depicts the different parts of a landscape, different plants you would find, maybe a couple buildings, what would that environment look like, but we're also going to learn how the different parts of a landscape can help you create a drawing that also looks realistic and isn't just as flat as the paper. We can take your paper and create a picture that almost looks like you could step into it and really be there. Then in part 2, I will show you how to color it. But for now, we're just going to worry about the drawing part. So all you're going to need is a piece of paper and a pencil and maybe an eraser on the side in case you want to get rid of a few things or fix up a part here and there. Remember, as you're following along with the video, you can always press pause and take your time, all right? And just do your best work. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Before we start drawing our desert landscape, I have just a basic landscape here to show you the different parts and explain why they're so important. So one of the first parts that you would draw when you draw a landscape is a horizon line. The horizon line separates the land from the sky, and it goes right across your paper like this. Now, I drew this landscape in permanent marker, so there wouldn't be lines going through my trees if I had done it with pencil. I would have erased that, but this was just for demonstration. Then we also have something called the vanishing point, this tiny little dot right here. And you can see that my path here goes all the way through my landscape, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as it reaches the vanishing point, because when something reaches the vanishing point, it vanishes. You can't see it anymore. And as things get closer to the vanishing point, they get smaller and smaller, and they're harder and harder to see. You can also break down your landscape into 3 different parts. You have the foreground, which is this area here in the front. Everything within this area of your picture should be drawn the largest. For example, this tree is the biggest out of the 3 trees in my landscape. It has the most details on it. I would probably add more trees. I would put a little bit of grass at the bottom. Then, after the foreground is the middle ground, the area that, you guessed it, is right in the middle. This is really where my objects are more medium-sized. Still have some details on the tree, but nothing too crazy. And then as you move your way up the paper, closer to your horizon line and closer to your vanishing point, you would end up with the background, which is where all of the objects in your picture are the smallest. I have one little tree here in my background. It's really, really tiny, and you can barely see it. I also have some mountains here along my background space. As I would be coloring these things too, again, there would be the most details here and the least details in my background. Now we're going to be drawing a desert landscape. So while this landscape has things like a path, or this could even be a stream, grass, mountains, trees, our desert landscape is going to have some different objects. Like, for example, maybe we might have a couple cactuses or cacti in our picture. We're not going to have as much grass because in the desert there's more sand. And we're going to maybe put a few buildings here and there. Maybe we'll throw in an animal or 2. But we're still going to have mountains in our background, and we're also going to color our sky to make it look like a sunset. But first we have to draw it. So now it's time to draw our desert landscape. I'm going to start off with my horizon line. Not going to put my horizon line right in the middle of my paper. I'm actually going to move it up just a little bit, because then that'll give me more space down here to maybe add a building or 2, some cacti, a nice path. So I'm going to find the middle of my paper. I'm going to move up just a smidge, and I'm going to draw my horizon line across my paper. I know that it's really tempting to use a ruler for your horizon line, but there are no such thing as perfectly straight horizon lines. If you were to look at one in nature, okay, nobody took a ruler and created that. It just looks so straight because most of it that you're seeing is so far away. I'm also going to take my pencil and I'm going to make a tiny little dot for my vanishing point. Now you may not be able to see it from there, so I'm going to bring it in a little bit closer. Okay, very, very tiny. You don't want to make it huge. It's not that big, you know, but we are going to do a little something with that and a little bit to help hide it a little bit better. Now I'm going to have a path. Maybe my path has a little bit of a curve. I'm going to bring that all the way down here. Now you notice I'm going out on a diagonal because my path is going to be pretty narrow up here, but pretty wide down here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And there I go. My path is nice and wide here in the foreground, and as it gets closer and closer to my vanishing point, it gets smaller and smaller. I'm also going to start to draw in a mountain range here in the background. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to bring this mountain range up here. And I'm also going to start to add in things that would make this look more like a desert. Now I already know that all of this space here isn't going to be green. There might be a couple little plants here and there, but I am going to start to add in some cacti. Now any cacti that I put here in my foreground are going to be large. These will be kind of medium sized, and maybe I'll scatter a few in the background. To draw a cactus, you can draw the base of the cactus, and then you can also add some arms. I think I'm going to draw another one over here. This is going to be my really large one. I'm going to actually, with my pencil, I'm going to kind of sketch in some of the details on my cactus. It definitely has some texture to it, and it'll obviously have all of those prickers, right? You definitely don't want to go messing with a cactus and touching that stuff. Ouch. Not a good idea. And I'll add a little bit more to it when I add color in my next video. Now this is going to be my foreground. My middle ground, I'm going to add it, but I'm going to bring it up a little bit and kind of in this area right here. I'm going to do the base of my cactus. It's smaller than the one that I drew. This one I'm going to kind of play around with the shape a little bit. Cacti have some pretty funky shapes to them. This one also has some details on it, but you probably can just see some of the prickers on the outside. You can't see some of them on the inside like I could here. I'm going to add a tiny little cacti back here. And then as I make my way around my picture, I'm just going to start adding, you know, some little cacti here and there that kind of, you know, match up. I might even have one that goes a little bit over my horizon line. And again, they're very, very tiny. I could take an eraser and I'm going to make sure that if I do that, I'm going to get rid of the horizon line that's here in the middle. All right, just like that. Now, some other things that I could add to my desert landscape. Maybe I might have a scorpion. Okay. Look up some animals that, you know, live in the desert. Add them to your picture. I'm gonna add this scary dude right here. He's so tiny that, I mean, you honestly wouldn't even see him if I had put him too far away. So he's a good animal to kind of like keep in the front here by my front cactus in the foreground. I'm also going to add a couple little lines to the bottom of my cacti. Okay. Something else that we might see rolling in the desert, I'm going to just kind of take my pencil here and give it a little swirl. I'm going to elaborate that a little bit more next time, but that's a tumbleweed. All right, you might have lots of those rolling through the desert. What else could I add? All right. Now, a lot of the emphasis on my desert is going to be with my mountains and my sunset sky. Don't really have too much going on here. If you want, you could have a little fun with it. Maybe down here, I might draw the back of a car. Right here on my road, kind of going on a road trip. All right, this is a little tricky. You can go ahead and copy me on this if you want. This might be, you know, something good to pause the video for. Here's my tires. We'll call this one road tripping. There we go. And I'm going to add more details when I do the coloring bit. All right, and then obviously my car is headed towards some mountains, so they're going to need something to go through. So right here at the base of my mountain, I'm actually going to draw a rainbow shape And I can color it in with my pencil right now just so I know. Kind of a tunnel that's going to go through my mountains. So I'll have this beautiful sunset, some scenic mountains, and my car making its way into the distance through the desert. Now if you want, you could add in any other little animals you might want. You might even want to take a thin Sharpie, maybe outline your drawing and color it in. You can paint this, you can color it. When I show you how to color it, I am going to take out some of my colored pencils to do so. But for that, you will have to check out part 2.